Good morning, all of you. First of all, I thank IMA President, Mr. Bob Babel, the IMA T&D Project Division Chairman, Mr. Harish Agwal, and IMA Director General, Mr. Sin Misra, and other dignitaries, and IMA in general, for providing me these wonderful, grateful opportunities. Speaking in IMA 9th T&D Industry Conclave 2015. Honestly speaking, what I want to present you, most of them was covered by Mr. Bob Babel. So, but today, I want to speak different way. That means, through Japanese perspective, I want to talk on how T&D sector, which I believe T&D sector should be the major driving force for the economic growth in India. So just look through the Japanese eye. As introduced, before I came to India 2 years before, I was the chief engineer of Toshiba infrastructure company. That means I headed all the technologies of Toshiba, infrastructure-related technologies of Toshiba. And not only Japan, but throughout the world. I traveled many countries and bring new technologies or Toshiba's new way, new systems, and speak with many peoples throughout the world. So, including these kind of experiences, and also in 2 years, I'm getting accustomed to Indian culture and becoming like Indians. But before I forget Japanese way, I want to speak about T&D India through Japanese point of view. The contents of my speech is like this. First, I'd like to introduce how Japanese or Japanese business house look at India. Then I'd like to speak about the relationship between India and Japan. I think it is now the strongest relationship in the history. Eventually, today, Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Shinzo Abe, comes Delhi and will meet Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi and discuss both countries, the benefit of the both countries, futures of the both countries. This is the 5th individual meetings, and within a very short period, this is exceptional. So I believe this is one of the memorable day. And after that, I'll briefly explain how Toshiba is working in India. And also, I'd like to speak about history of Japanese industry, which I believe this is useful for Indian's industry and achieve T&D scenario in India. So this is the contents of my speech. So first, how Japanese look at India. I'd like to speak 3 points. First, of course, India is the roots of Buddhism. In 6th century, the Buddhism transferred to Japan. And I hear that in India today, the Buddhism population is 1% or so. But still, in Japan, more than 30% is Buddhism. I am not so strict Buddhist, but every year, in the first day of the year, I will go to Buddhist temple and pray for the safety, healthy, and wealthy. And so part of my heart is Buddhism, and that came from India. There are many things which I see in India. This is all very similar to Japan. Of course, India is the roots of Buddhism, so all the things transferred from India. See, this is Homa, or Homam, or Hema, many sound, I don't, but this Homa transferred to Japan. And still today, in Japan we call Goma, very similar. And what we are doing is very similar, and praying in front of the fire. So this is definitely transferred from India. Left side, devil. In many buildings, houses, this devils we recognize in India. And also, not in the house, but in many occasions, we are using this same thing, Oni, we call. And actually, this red Oni, I take from the website in Japan. So this is very popular character. And Lakshmi, we call Kishoten, but please look, very similar. On the lotus flower, and ladies, typical Indian-like ladies. And right-hand side, Japanese ladies, but very similar. So you can see very similarity in the cultural background for both countries. Second one, food, the curry. Why curry? Curry is an Indian food, of course, but curry is also Japanese food today. Recent research ankette to the elementary school children in Japan. What is your favorite food? Number one, curry, 35%. Number two, sushi, 33%. So these two foods are the typical Japanese food today. I also like curry. I remember that my mother cooked curry when I was very small children. At that time, the country was not so rich, very still difficult age. So getting enough food is also difficult. But the slightly big portion of potato and carrot and well-cooked onion, plus small pieces of pork. And of course, the spicy gravy with rice. This is my mother's typical curry. So there's all the families have different type of curries, but Definitely, this food is national soul food in Japan today. The taste is a little bit different because curry transferred to Great Britain, and through UK, Japan imported curry. So taste is different, slightly different, but the spice with gravy sauce, this is the same. Third, friendly and supportive. During the last World War II, Japan was totally destroyed. And after the war, Japanese people suffered very miserable years, miserable times. At the time, India offers the first recognition of sovereign Japan in the world. India offers iron ores, which helped the great deal of recovery of Japanese economy. Look at this picture, elephant. And you can see the Indian Prime Minister Nehru, along with him, Indira Gandhi. The Prime Minister Nehru gave this elephant to Japanese people. And this elephant's name is Indira. This is a letter from Prime Minister of India. Dear children, Japanese children, I am very happy to send you one elephant as desired by you. Because during the wartime, in Japan was so much destroyed. No food was there. So we cannot afford to keep animals. So almost no animals in the zoo. And Japanese children has very much desired to see the wild animals. And for that, the Prime Minister Nehru responded and sent Japanese children elephant, Indira. And in that letter, he said that I hope that when the children of India and the children of Japan will grow up, they will serve not only their own great countries, but also the cause of peace and cooperation all over Asia and the world. At the time, I was not born. After several years, I was born. And I lived, this elephant, Indira, came to the Ueno Zoo in Tokyo, and I was grown up in Tokyo. So when I was a child, of course, the zoo is one of the favorite places, and I met Indira several times. And it was wonderful for Japanese children to see this kind of big animal. So I clearly remember about that. And the children of Japan, grown up and old enough and coming to India. So this kind of mentality we have. We want to work, of course, for Japanese country, but we should support all other nations. And India is offered this kind of help at the time of miserable time of Japan. Then it is a time for us to come here, and whatever we can do, we will do. This kind of mentality, I think we Japanese have. So next topics, business. Of course, this is obvious. This graph shows the GDP and GDP growth rate of several countries. And already, you already knows that India is expected to be a world highest GDP growth country in coming years. This year, last quarter, India's growth rate is 7.4%, more than China, already more than China. So I think that time has come, that India's time has come. Well, has already started. So over the years until 2040, average growth rate of GDP is expected 6.5% in India. Of course, more than China, Brazil, or other countries. So this is the country of opportunity. This is the business point of view, very important for us. This graph shows the per capita energy consumption in India and other countries. Please look at the difference of the energy consumption rate per capita. India is approximately 1/3 of China. So that means we have big space to expand. T&D business is the driving force for supplying electrical energy. So this we easily understand that we have opportunity here. And this is a country of 1.3 billion people. So the market is here. This is one aspect. This graph shows the demographic analysis, the percentage of productive age ratio. In this graph, the age between 16 to 65, this is defined as a productive age, but percentage of productive age is closely related to the GDP growth. It is common knowledge. And Japan, in 50s, 60s, the very rapid expansion of GDP, and 70 also. But in 90s, Japan had peaked out. In China, look, in 2020, China has peaked out. And in India, it is expected to be peaked out in 2040. Another more than 20 years, 25 years. The 30% of Indian population, Indian people, are between 10 to 24. Very young, more than export. The main import materials are oil and gas, of course, copper, and metals. I believe gold is the main part of this. I think that there are many jewel shops in here. And technology, service, electrical equipment, etc. On the other hand, the export is agricultural products, IT services, and textile, handcraft, and others. So, in order to become the country much more rich, all other nations like Japan, China, or Southeastern countries, industry is the driving force to compensate the trade deficit. But India is the only country that IT sector, IT and service sector, grown up. Then industry is still, of course, growing, but still slow compared to the IT and servicing sectors. This shows the composition of GDP and employment. This structure is divided. The yellow color is agricultural sector, and light blue, this servicing IT sector, and green one, this is industry. Between 2000 and 2013, the GDP of servicing sector, IT sector, expand big amount, while industry, not so big. And for the population-wise or employment-wise, still the agricultural sector is the majority of this country. Sorry. In many countries like Japan or China or Southeastern Asian countries, the transition from agricultural sector to industry sector, this happened. And the benefit of this transition is that it is relatively easier to observe the people who are engaged in agricultural sector. IT sector, before entering this segment, the education or high technical education is required. And without this knowledge, this training, they cannot do. So India is succeeded, or still this expansion is continuing, I think. And I believe India will be the dominant country of IT sector, IT segment. But for the transition from agricultural sector to industry sector, this is relatively easy. Industrial sector can accommodate agricultural people. Of course, it is difficult, but relatively easily train, educate people, and observe these people, offer the employment opportunity. That means distribute the welfare money to the country. So I believe, of course, India should reinforce the IT strengths, but parallelly, India should strengthen the industrial segment. And I think it is possible. So change to the topics, to the India-Japan relationship. And I believe this is the dawn of new era. In September 2014, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Japan and had a summit meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And after the meeting, the two prime ministers signed a joint statement entitled Tokyo Declaration for Japan-India Special and Strategic Global Partnership. At the time, Honorable Prime Minister Modi declared "Make in India" in his speech. He promised to establish effective infrastructure for the industry, and he promised to deregulate the special and local business rule in India. Actually, he said like that. He promised to cut the red tape. Red tape means some restriction, etc., and prepare the red carpet for the Japanese houses. This was a very Japanese, all the government, all the Japanese business houses were well, very surprised and also impressed to that presentation and speeches. And at the same time, he asked for the actions of combining Japanese discipline and hardware together with Indian IT capability and low-cost labor to make India as a global manufacturing hub. So he said that India is a market. Of course, India is a big market, 1.3 billion people's market. But he said, not just the market, but the global manufacturing hub. Also, Japanese were very much impressed. And same time, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe declared 3.5 trillion yen investment to India in 5 years and doubling number of Japanese companies in India. At the time, approximately 1,000 companies were in India. I think today more than 1,200 companies are there. So along with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's declaration, the number of Japanese companies are increasing. And we are one of them. So what Toshiba is doing in Japan, in India? Let us see what Toshiba had done and what Toshiba is challenging in India, especially for the power sector. If we talk about all the Toshiba segment, it is too much. So just for the power sector, 1987, first steam turbine supplied to Ampara Thermal Power Station, and that turbine is still working very well for supplying powers to India. And 92, gas-insulated switchgear supplied to Tata Power Mumbai, first gas-insulated substation. And 2009, first 765 kV generator step-up transformer supplied to CPAT thermal power stations. So historically, Toshiba is also supporting India. And 2013, we invest TTDI. This is Toshiba Transmission and Distribution Systems India at Hyderabad as its global manufacturing hub of T&D product for India and throughout the world. And Toshiba is aiming, my company TTDI, to be a global manufacturing hub. And I'm always saying, combine Japanese discipline work and Toshiba hardware technology, together with Indian IT capability and low cost, and also very good quality laborers, engineers, to be a T&D global manufacturing hub. This, I think I speak this beginning of 2014, so a little bit earlier than Prime Minister Modi said. But this is exactly same as making India concept. So we are working toward the making India. So we shall contribute to build domestic T&D infrastructure. Toshiba is committed to supply products with solutions and services to Indian T&D network with Japanese technology and Indian prices. This is a very important point. But this is not just the point. We drive export and foreign exchange. This is the second and also very important point, I think, for India. The trade deficit is still there. Of course, IT segment is working very much. But one good way to recover the trade deficit is drive export and earn foreign exchange. This, IMA President Mr. Babel mentioned this morning, and this is completely same. Just what I am thinking. So look at the history of Japanese industry briefly. And I think this is a hint for India, especially for the Indian industry. Before 1960s, believe it or not, Japanese products were considered one of the most poor quality, most inferior products in the world. Some people get Japanese product. Oh, Japanese product, this is not working. This kind of products Japan was produced before 1960s. And this is the start of Japan. And we understand our products are so bad. So Japanese people thought that we have to change. We have to be much more quality conscious. So Japan learned technology from outside, especially from US, and improved quickly. The quality control, we learned. Today, quality control is recognized as one of the Japanese state-of-the-art technology, but no, we learned and improved. Mass production, yes, we learned. And other technologies, precision machineries, etc. We learned from outside. And this drives to change Japan, of course. But this is not sufficient. There are so many small, inferior product manufacturers, poor quality manufacturers, substandard product manufacturers in Japan at that time. That killed the Japanese industry. And we understand that fact and establish Japanese standard and also Japanese Industry Association. And Japanese government and industry association work together to clear up inferior products by substandard, non-genuine manufacturers. That was very difficult, but we did. Of course, the government policies, incentives, this is always very important, fundamental, no doubt. And the export benefit to drive the increasing export, this is also very much helpful to the Japanese industry at that time. So we improved by ourselves in various points. But still, this is not sufficient. We need some lucky, some time from the God. For Japan, that was Korean War. Battle in the Korea, and the US, China, all helped and fight together. And Japan was the nearest country from Korea. And many products, even at the time, not very good products, but the necessity, demand for many various kinds of products that happened to Japan. And this was the opportunity for Japan. Very lucky. Japan cannot do anything on the Korean War. Just our country, our island, is just located beside the peninsula, Korea Peninsula. We cannot do anything for that. But eventually, this was a very lucky opportunity, and using that opportunity, our industry goes up. So this kind of lucky opportunity is required for the country. And also, whether we can utilize this opportunity or not is depend on the country, depend on the industry, depend on the people in the country. So Japanese people, Japanese government took an advantage of that opportunity and succeeded. That is one very important fact of Japan. And another point is the human factor. Yes, everything depends on the human. So human factor is very important. Prime Minister Mr. Modi also mentioned this Japanese discipline, but not just discipline, but like team-working spirit or other this human aspect. This is also very important. But I believe even in the country of huge varieties of diversity, I believe we can do, or we have to do, to educate, train people, especially for the agricultural sector. And in order to do so, the government has to change mind, and the industry has to change mind. But this is also one important aspect. I sometimes say that Indians are very capable. One Indian is equal to 4 Japanese in the capability. Yeah, I think so. But in the opposite, 4 Indians cannot compete with 1 Japanese. So much different direction. This country is, looks like that. So this is also human-related circumstances, situation. But gradually, we can educate, we can train, we can change. So this is the point. So these 5 points, I want to say, these are the keys for Indian industry to rise up the capability. This is a quick look back the history of Japanese history. The war ended 1945, and 48 we established Japan Electrical Manufacturing Association, JEMA. It is kind of the IMA. And 49 we established Japanese Industrial Standard, JIS standard. So then Korean War, from 1950 to 53. This is a strong follow wind for taking up industry. And we learned a lot of technologies from the United States. And also in the T&D sector, huge investment was done in 1950s and 70s. This is also the government initiatives. And the T&D sector in Japan was the driving force for economic growth in Japan. So I believe we are India. As in industry, the same. And there are several monuments in Japan. I'll skip. So look at T&D scenario in India. There are many challenges for the T&D sectors. Huge gap in demand and supply, of course. And this leads to overloading of distribution systems. To provide reliable, efficient, safe, quality power to all at 24/7. This is a challenge today. And we are working on this. And aggregated T&C loss reduction, this is also very important and based on the government initiative, so we are working. And need to keep the climate green and global warming, green, this green energy concept. So these are the challenges. In order to do so, one big issue is the fiscal performance of the utility companies. Now government start initiatives on this part. And also, lack of standardization of projects, product specifications. This is one aspect. Lack of focus on new technologies and innovations. I think this is the area which we have to look at from now, if we want to look globally. And issues connected with acquisition of land for construction of substations. This is also a very difficult situation. We cannot do 100% on this, but from technology point of view, we can offer some alternatives. So these areas we have to work on. And already government policies, initiatives, reforms, that has happened in India, in the T&D sectors. New initiatives and policies like UDAY, DDUGJY, I cannot speak Hindi words, so. And IPDS scheme and PPP initiatives, of course, TBCB systems, and so on and so on. So this, we have already started. So what do we have to do next? One area is quality. As Mr. Weber mentioned this morning, if we go to other countries, quality is the key. If we work just in India, it's no problem. But in order to work for the country, industry shall be the driving force for exporting products, earn money, and rebalance the trade deficit, and make the welfare, money, and distribute to the country. This is the industry's mission, I believe. So what shall we do? What should we do? I recognize, because I was chief engineer responsible for all the technologies of Toshiba infrastructure. So before I assigned here, I traveled many countries throughout the world and meet many customers, government officials, etc., and explain technologies, innovations, and so on. And most of the people, most of the country, well accepted. Oh, this is very good. This is Toshiba's product, Japanese product, no doubt. But after I'm coming here, I also visited to several European countries and other countries. Difficult sometimes. Oh, Toshiba, good. But, oh, you are from India. Oh, okay, next time. I like that. Because quality of Indian product is recognized. I'm sorry to say, but I'm now part of that. So, world not second class, but third or relatively lower class. Not good. India is a huge potential. We should be the world hub, world center of the industry. For example, there are many examples, but this is IS standard cable. IS mark is here, 25 square millimeter. IS specify tolerance, of course, 25 square millimeter between this band. But here, I don't say all, but most of this IS approved cable, IS marked cable, is less than that. And many people around the world know about that. Oh, India, okay, next time. This kind of things happen. If we talk about for example, our industry, CRGO, Department of Heavy Industries bringing a quality order for usage of prime CRGO material in transformers. But still, the usage of second-grade materials continues to exist. Why? Okay, in India, if we only consider India, okay. But we should look at world market, global, as Mr. Weber mentioned. Transformer losses? Yes, we should change. So this is the current situation in India. But this is same in Japan before 1960s. So don't worry, we were also like that. But we have to improve. We have to change. So, last part. And as I mentioned, improving by ourselves is not sufficient. Improving quality, okay, important. Government initiative, okay, very important. Eliminate this kind of malpractice by government and industry, okay, important. But it's not sufficient. We need time. We need the right time. For Japan, that was the Korean War. For India, I believe now, because oil price dropping down, and most of the countries suffered a big way. So world economy is suffering because of that. And that is also bad for export and difficult. We tend to complain about the oil price, even today, as Mr. Weber mentioned. But please look at the country's economy. US now good, but China down. Brazil, miserable. Russia, suffering. How about India? Okay, not very much good, but yeah, it's okay. Strong. The GDP growth rate is 7.4%. This country, government, can spend money to the industry, to take up the industry. And this has already happened. Government initiative for the distribution sector, and so on. So this is the right time for making India for T&D businesses. This is the message from me. And not only just time. So we have to improve by ourselves with government and with industry. So Ministry of Power and also IEEMA can jointly work toward standardization of evaluating all the equipment based on life cycle cost, so as to reduce T&D losses, great efficiency, and great breakdown. This is the one direction. So, and also, government and associated body like IEEMA should lead the way to eradicate substandard suppliers to make the Indian product world class, justifying the make in India. So this is a time, I believe. Of course, it will take time, but start now. Having IT and servicing sectors as core strengths of India, India can definitely emerge as the best manufacturing base with a little more support from our government and associated bodies, and improving by ourselves. With all the above, I'm very confident we can say that the contribution from Government of India, industry and associations like IEEMA, India can become the most preferable, most strong industry base of manufacturing. So I'm already India, and let us join together to ensure making India a success. Together we can do. Together we can success. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.